Welcome back, everybody, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BETSPERTS. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. Happy Monday. You might be a little confused because usually we have Mr. Fallica here on Fridays, but he is here on Monday, Andy, to join us to talk about what I'm pretty sure is the last college football game of the year. They don't have that weird, like, after the championship game bowl anymore, right? Hopefully not.
No, God, no. And I did have to call somebody out about there was a little slander about, oh, it's a Saturday without college football. Like, God, there's a FCS game, which in all honestly turned out to be a total
Yeah.
dud due to an early injury and just domination by a team that's dominated for a decade. But yeah, this is a fun one, even for people who don't like rematches. This is a solid rematch, and I've sat through a week of Twitter chats and conversations with other people trying to make cases for both sides, and I'm as confused as I was to start with, and I might just bet this over and cheer that both teams have a really good time.
Yeah, I think a lot of times in these rematches, you can make a little bit more of an argument and a case to back the team that lost the first meeting. And I was doing some thinking, and I think I brought it up on the podcast. It kind of has a little bit of a feel like 2011 Alabama LSU and Notre Dame Clemson last year, where in 2011 Alabama had all the kicking problems, and you walked away like Alabama's the better team. And if they happen to somehow play again in the national championship, Alabama's going to win the game easily, and they did. Or last year, when Notre Dame beat Clemson, and Clemson didn't have Trevor Lawrence, and they didn't have about a half a dozen guys on that defense, and they pulled the overtime upset. You were like, if Clemson and Notre Dame play again in the ACC championship game, it's not going to be competitive, and it wasn't. And I kind of feel a little bit like the same thing this year, where I think a majority of people think Georgia's the better team, and they thought that going into the SEC title game, and things just kind of got out of hand. So it wouldn't surprise me tonight if Georgia won this game, and won this game a little bit more comfortably than people might think.
Yeah, and I've seen, that's the main bowl case for Georgia. The other one is just, Bama was good all year. We just didn't realize it because we had so much hype around Georgia. And my main takeaway from the semifinals is like, well, Georgia looked a lot more, you know, they looked great. Honestly, Georgia looked great. Alabama looked fine, but there is something to be said for a wily old coach kind of playing it a little vanilla against a group of five team and just getting enough done, not showing the good plays. Either way, I'm pretty excited. And you've made a couple bets here. Little you do this sometimes. You take a little unconventional route to this, and
Yeah.
I kind of like this too because, and I said to Dan before the show started, I'm like, I'm not sure there's an outcome for this game that would surprise me, but like if you do like Georgia, I think you could make a little extra money this way.
If you go back and look in the college football playoff games, excuse me, whether it's the semifinals or the final, the 11 games that have had a spread of less than a touchdown, 6 of them have been decided by at least 17 points. So a lot of times the alternative lines are basically ways where you can maybe make a little bit extra money. Like one thing that I did do, or I should say, 2 things that I did is I laid 6.5 with Georgia at like plus 160, and laid 9.5 with Georgia at like plus 245, just because I think there is a chance that maybe you get a late touchdown, or maybe Georgia makes the adjustments that they needed to from the first meeting, and they do win the game a little bit more comfortably than one might think. And what you were talking about as well with Alabama and Nick Saban against Cincinnati, like I think that's a big part of the handicap here. I think you need to figure out, was what we saw against Cincinnati basically the game plan? Like they knew they could run the ball at will and had no respect for Cincinnati's front, or was it good Cincinnati secondary play, eliminating those big plays, or was it the fact that John Mechie wasn't there? Because if you look at the Georgia game, the first meeting in Atlanta, Alabama had 7 20-yard completions. They averaged 10 yards of drop back, and Bryce Young's off target percentage was around 7%. If you look at the Cincinnati game, they had 2 20-yard pass plays. They averaged less than 6 yards of drop back, and his off target percentage was right around 19-20%. So was that just the circumstances of all of those things, or was it more an indication of Mechie not being there? Because if you look at Mechie in the Alabama passing game over the course of the year, he actually had more targets by a considerable amount. I think it was 54 to 43 in obvious passing situations. So, like, he's the security blanket. He's the guy that Bryce Young looked towards in obvious passing down. So, can Bolden or Jacobs or someone like that kind of step up tonight and fill that void? Because Jamison Williams, I'm sure, is now going to be getting a lot more attention from the Georgia secondary. So that angle right there, like I know people probably are tired of hearing about it, but in our production meeting that we had yesterday, like there's some of the coaches and some of the people that we talked to really think that the Mechie absence is going to be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and that's too like, and Alex, it makes me think of your charts you make about the overs and unders for the NBA, how
Mm.
it flows, and like about teams and markets can be. It's just like I mean, it's like the old stock market aphorism, like buy low, sell high. It's the same thing. You're going into that SEC title game. Like Georgia's stock was super high, and Bama's was slightly lower, all things considered. Now after the win, and even despite Georgia looking much better in the semifinal, all things considered, I think Bama's stock is kind of high right now. And if the Mechie injury matters, it's I mean, I guess I hope it is a blowout for your sake, for your bets, but like that's kind of where I'm leading. I'm like Georgia's offense get its figured out. If Georgia's offense is fine, like I don't see how this doesn't go over, and I think that's kind of where I'm at. But I did say something I enjoy thoroughly on these is the amount of props. It's kind of
Love the
turned
big
into like
game.
how the Super Bowl, like the Super Bowl is like 2,000 props now. It's almost ridiculous. You got to spend a month looking at them, but these big games, the offerings have been nice, and yeah, you have some player props too. You looked at.
Yeah, there were two that I was looking at. Number one was Brock Bowers to score the first touchdown in the game at like plus 750, and if you can find an anytime touchdown, I think that's worth a play as well. He's got 6 touchdowns in his last 4 games. He's a matchup nightmare. We've seen Stetson Bennett target him early in games. He had that great play. I think it was on the first play of the game or that first drive of the game against Michigan in the Orange Bowl. So him to score a touchdown, I think he's got 12 or 13 now on the year. At that price, I think it's worth a play. And we've talked, and a lot of times in these games, it's players that we don't often talk about. We talked about Bowers. We talked about Pickens. You talk about Jamison Williams. You talk about Brian Robinson. Like someone like Jermaine Burton, I think could be someone tonight who could have a pretty big game because when they put that package on the field with Pickens and the tight ends, and now you have to worry about Cook and McIntosh potentially coming out of the backfield. Like someone like Jermaine Burton who had a 57-yard touchdown in the in the Orange Bowl, he potentially could get a little bit overlooked and a little bit ignored. But he's only basically one reception away from popping that over 36.5. So I think Burton is someone that I would take a look at tonight for a yardage prop over.
I love a first touchdown scorer. That's what I was poking around. I was going to ask Dan about that, but this is a good start.
You really do. And Bowers is somebody. I had a production meeting this morning with, and Ryan Noonan was in there, and I asked him for some props. And he liked a Bowers. I think it was just I wrote it down somewhere. I think it was the receptions over. I even got my 4 for 4 ad on in honor of him today. But
I was going to say you're doing double
that.
promotions there. You got 4 for 4, and you got the BetSperts hoodie on there.
Oh yeah,
Your company
yeah,
man.
I'm not gonna go buy gear if I can just get the
Why
free
not?
company gear for sure. This is why I'm repping. But yeah, I'll take a look at the offering of props. This game, I have a little bit of time yet. It's all afternoon. There's no Monday Night Football anymore. It's nice to fill the void with that. I was gonna ask you too. That without a lot of other stuff going on, just the one game. Have you had a chance to start digging into golf for the week?
No,
I have.
I have not.
I haven't even looked
Yeah,
yet.
I
I'm just
literally just saw that someone tweeted out that DeChambeau is not in the field. Yeah, I'm still kind of I'm a little salty this morning, and still kind of a little melancholy as well, just because of yesterday's NFL results. Because I'm in a season long deal, and I had the Rams and really needed the Rams yesterday, and the player in front of me had the Niners. The player behind me had the Niners, and it's one of those like super contest style pools where you got to weight them though. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the Rams blowing the 17-0 lead, and then blowing the 24-17 lead late. It was a significant 5-figure swing for me, so that hurt. And then I had I can't maybe even if I brought it up last week or not. I might have with Ryan. I'm not even sure, but I did play the lunch money parlay at 650 to 1, Jags money line and tie in Chargers Raiders. So I thought I was looking at another significant 5-figure score, and yeah, I felt like I got robbed last night. I didn't even leave my hotel room, so I'm a little down today. I feel like I should be a lot wealthier than I am.
There's somebody else who was pretty bummed out. One of our buddies in the chat quite a bit had a bet on Trevor Lawrence to throw the most interceptions, which is all fine and dandy right up until Matt Stafford threw that late interception, which pulled that bet into a tie. So it was, I think, dead heat rules apply. Condolences to anyone else who had Trevor Lawrence most interceptions.
Drew had Trevor Lawrence's rushing yards for the season. He needed a certain number yesterday, and then he was starting to get nervous because the end of the game was looking like it may have, and it did end with kneel downs. He still ended up the scampering by Trevor was enough to get him the bets, and the kneel downs didn't hurt enough. But that's to run 17, 18 weeks with a rushing prop and have kneel downs take it the other way would be a really bad one. And I don't know how many people I saw with the tie prop. My favorite thing about the tie prop bet, like you said, Chris, you bet the Jaguars, you parlay it. We kind of went over that at halftime last night. It was the number was wrong. Like they were so correlated. Like the number was kind of wrong. And I seen a bunch of people screw up and get paid on this because they didn't bet the right bet. They bet the Jaguars to win and then the tie in regulation, like a 3-way regulation tie. And they're like, oh, I thought I just got bad odds compared to everyone else. Like, it turned out I won my bet. I'm like, yeah, you just take those and move down the road and realize next time you have a bad beat, you got a lucky one in your pocket.
Yeah. It's like the dude in Circus Survivor who was out there. Oh no, I'm not hedging at all. I'm the Chiefs and I bet the Chiefs. Like, what are you doing? Like, you got $1.2 million on it. It's the ultimate perfect hedge. You can name your profit right then and there, and you should have lost. Like the Broncos should have won the game, and you should have lost. And the fact that he was so stubborn and ignorant and dumb about the way he strategized that final week, I was kind of hoping he was going to lose. But it just goes to show you, like, regardless of how much you guys or me or anybody think we know, those Survivor contests are so it's just luck. It really is. You can map it out. You can think you have the right side, and then it comes down to Nick Bolton making an unbelievable hit on Melvin Gordon. And they return to fumble 96 yards for a score.
Yeah, that's kind of NFL betting in a nutshell. Like so many things. You just think about the results. Like you said, the Niners result. Honestly, the Raiders results. I think the Chargers took it in the shorts from the refs for like 60, 70 minutes, if we're going to be honest. And, I mean, there were some funny results yesterday. It's such a grind.
Chargers minus 500 make the playoffs 2 weeks ago, right? Something like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, at one point Baltimore was the 1 seed. A lot of things got ticklish in the middle of the season. But yeah, playoffs start Saturday, but tonight's about the amateurs. I'm going to say.
I was going to say, please give the air quotes.
Semi-pros.
Yeah, we'll go semi-air quotes on that, thanks to the NIL stuff. So, all right, well, Mr. Fallica, if you missed it, took some alt spreads on the Georgia Bulldogs up to almost 10. I think 6.5 and 9.5 is what you had, and then some props. Bowers scoring first. Bowers scoring anytime. I love the anytime. That's a good way to bail yourself out.
Totally.
And who was the other?
Jermaine Burton
receiving yards
under. Over his receiving yards, rather. I was thinking one other prop Stanford Steve actually liked was he liked Bolden receiving yards over and Jameson Williams receiving yards under. So if you're looking for a couple more things to root for tonight, those are a couple of that Steve had thrown out there as well.
Yeah, my card is filling out then.
Excellent.
I'm gonna play all those. So, all right. Well, we thank you for joining us again. Have fun with the game tonight. Best of luck to all your bets, and we'll catch you again.
Great. Take care, guys.
See you, Chris. All
I always
right.
forget about the Survivor contest. Like, that's the thing. Like, it is just
There's
you do
so
need a lot
much.
of luck. Well, and the thing is too, like the Survivor Millionaire or the Circus Millionaire, like you got almost at 70%. Like that's not just good handicapping. That's good handicapping plus a lot of things going right. Like you have to have your luckiest season to even end up in the cash now. There's so many people in there. So otherwise, let's make a few more bets. There's a lot more going on today. The NHL is still kind of skimming along, but NBA is full steam ahead right now, I think. We've even got a lot of the players back.
NBA's doing good. We're just chugging along, but it is tennis season, Andy. Tennis is
It
in
is tennis
full
season.
gear. We've got two women's tournaments. The Australian Open qualifiers are going. It's a very, very busy weekend. I'll actually be doing a Bet US show later today, talking a little bit about the tennis, giving out a couple outrights and things like that. So we're in full throttle. Got a bunch of bets for everybody. These should all be later tonight. Again, we're in Australia. We'll start with the Adelaide 2 tournament here. Diana Yastremska, someone who is kind of had a rough year last year, made some less than great social media decisions, may or may not have been taking PEDs, just generally a tough year for her overall, but a very talented player, seems to be kind of back at some sort of form this last week or so, has been playing quite a bit of tennis, goes against Teresa Martinkova, someone I like quite a bit, but generally plays much better in Europe. If you go back and look, she generally struggles early in the season and down under. I think this is a great spot for Yastremska that's had a couple more matches already under her belt. I have her like a minus 130, almost minus 135 favorite here. So anything minus 120 or better looks good to me. Heather Watson, the Brit here, playing Tamara Zidansek. Zidansek, someone who generally does better on slower hard court surfaces and clay. I think has only had one match so far this year, whereas Watson came through qualifying here, playing some nice tennis. I have this match pretty close. Was able to get plus 145. Would play this down probably to plus 135. Should be able to still find that. Anastasia Potapova, minus 2.5 games. Thought about maybe taking the money line, but I think if she wins, it's pretty comfortable here against Madison Brangle, who, I don't know if this is her last year, but I think this is probably her last year or two playing tennis kind of at this level here. I think we're just going to watch her get kind of beat up all year. And I think Potapova has a good chance to put one on her here. And of course, Coco Gauff is playing, and she's not only playing, she's playing one of my favorite players to bet overs and over 2.5 sets and is a big underdog, Katerina Siniakova. She is one of these players who in the WTA can just reach these unbelievably high levels. She's a great doubles player, so brings a lot of variety to the game and things that a lot of players aren't used to seeing. Plays a ton of 3-set matches here. Happy to take the over and over 2.5 sets again. I think she can sneak one off Goff here. At the very least, we should see a 7-5, maybe even a tiebreaker here. So over 21 or better, over 2.5 sets, I'd play that plus 170 or better. So we got 4 looks there in Adelaide, and then a couple more looks, just 3 here in Sydney. That's the other tournament. I believe these start a little bit later. Again, most of these matches start around 7 o'clock Eastern time. It's got a nice part about Aussie tennis. We get it at a pretty good time. We'll start with a parlay here. Jessica Pegula, one of the favorites, just in general, to do well this week. She's got Caroline Garcia, who just continues to kind of fall off the map. The line here I'm seeing is right around minus 380. I have this closer to 450, even minus 500 if I start to tweak some stuff. So see some value in that, but it's hard to lay, minus 380. So I'll put her together with Ons Jabeur, who's playing Petra Kvitova. Petra Kvitova just kind of looks lost. Been a long time since we've seen her play good tennis or even look 100% healthy. She's a player who, ever since kind of falling off the stage after a press conference at the French Open, really messed up her ankle and hasn't looked the same since. So it looks like she's still carrying that injury. Jabeur has just tons of variety here. Again, the money line on her right around minus 170. I have it out at minus 225. So happy to put the two together. Right around even money should be good. Tomljanovic Shmedlova. This is a spot where we'll take the underdog. Shmedlova, again, has been playing some tennis the last couple of weeks. I look at this. I have them, stats wise. Tomljanovic generally plays a better quality of competition, but should be a pretty competitive match here. I have it closer to plus 170, plus 180. So anything plus 200 or better looks good to me. There's 225s just about everywhere. And the total of 20.5, I have closer to 21.5, maybe a cheap 21.5 if I was hanging it myself. So anything 21 or better looks good there. Nothing in the Australian Open qualifiers tonight. I'll try to keep an eye on those. Kind of some funky names and matches there, but enough bets otherwise, I think.
Funky indeed. And yeah, it's Monday. It's just Monday. There's a lot of tennis yet to be played all week. Down under, overnight tennis. We have some day games this week in college basketball. I have a 6-pack, which I will run through quick. A lot of it is pretty predictable based on if anybody watches the show or watches how I bet. A couple of these names are going to come up time and time again until the market finally adjusts or I've given them enough money and I am proved wrong. I guess Wofford over 125.5. I think this one is actually on the move. I like Wofford's offense a lot better than I guess the projections do. They are a slower paced team, but I can see them getting to 70 here. I don't know why this is quite this low. Again, it's two slow paced teams. I get it, but I have this projection in the 30s. 130, so over 125. Wofford, NC Greensboro. Illinois Chicago takes on maybe the worst team. Not quite the worst team. Bottom three, though, IU, PUI, the Jaguars. PU in the name for a reason. Terrible, turn the ball over a ton. I don't see their offense working ever. I could see a 40 something point output from them. They've done that multiple times this year, not reaching 50 points about a half dozen times already. So that is certainly on the table. This is a nice low total, but I'm still on the under here. Holy Cross +7. Um, it's not a good team, but neither is Lehigh. Lehigh hasn't beaten anyone by 7 this year. And I mean, they beat one team by 7 exactly, and that is not a Division One team. It was just a school called Eastern. I don't even know who that is. So yeah, this is
Good start.
this yeah they haven't covered a 7 all year. So the Holy Cross getting 7 is about 2 points too many in my mind. This could be a really really gross game altogether. Grambling, and then just getting down to the two HBSU or HBCU conferences, the MEAC and the SWAC, where there's a bunch of action. These conferences have been great. They just haven't canceled games. God bless them. Like Grambling, Florida A&M under. I've talked about Grambling a bunch. Terrible offense. Turned the ball over a lot. Doesn't hit free throws. Against A&M, I have this closer to 130, under 136.5. Morgan State, South Carolina State is up in the MEAC. These are both Baltimore teams, I think. Morgan State. Is this? I'm not even sure if this game is happening right, or I'm not sure if I put the right team name in here. For some reason, the schedule says Coppin still on. They've moved so many games around that the schedules are so wonky. I fully expect one of these games to not even be played, but Morgan State real rough on offense. Effective free throws, effective field goals, free throws, 3 points, everything. I have this much lower than 151 despite their quick pace. And then Pine Bluff unders. That's something I've bet constantly. Constant craving for Pine Bluff unders. I'm trying to think who sings that song. It's a good jam. Yeah, the Golden Lions, great logo, bad offense. Prairie View A&M, not much to write home about either. They run a little quicker offense. They hit their free throws, but other than that, they turn the ball over a lot, don't hit shots. So under 149 for me there, and we'll close it in this action-packed super show. Katie Lang, thank you, Patrick, with a little bit of the Professional Basketball Association. That's not what it's called.
Yeah, speaking of schedules, double check. It looks like there's a couple games that have postponed that are back up on the schedule here. I believe Sixers Rockets tonight is a reschedule, and I believe Nets Trailblazers tonight is a reschedule. So be careful, double check your models, make sure that you've got your schedules and things kind of updated there. But just 2 looks tonight. The New York Knicks host the San Antonio Spurs. Just a brutal schedule spot for the Spurs. 3 and 4 back to back. They come off a brutal overtime loss to the Brooklyn Nets last night. A lot of the teams still carrying kind of COVID issues. So you still got about half the roster there. The Knicks are still missing Derrick Rose, who is really a fundamentally important piece for them, but everyone else is there and healthy. They're at home. Happy to lay 6 here in a game where I have them 8, almost 9-point favorites. So anything 6 or better looks good. You should be able to grab that now. I think I actually even played a 6.5 earlier, so 6.5 is fine. Again, just a really great spot here for the Knicks. And then the Rockets team total under 108. The Philadelphia 76ers doing a sleepover game, Andy, here in Houston. Looks like everybody's healthy. They had the last 2 days off, so that's the sound of me knocking on wood. Joel Embiid should play tonight. They have plenty of time before their next game, which is also against a not so great opponent. So I expect him to play tonight. Should be a great spot for the Sixers. As you mentioned, I like to look at, kind of average totals versus average closing totals as a way to try to get an indication of whether overs or unders should be popping. A lot of times you'll see the books totals will be just slightly behind what's actually happening, which makes sense. As they get results, they kind of update. And it looks like we're at a point here where actual totals are starting to come down. So might be unders here. I'm going to keep an eye on that for this week and the next week. I think it might be kind of an under full kind of week here in the NBA, and this looks.
I was hoping you'd say under full. And the chat, we're sitting here talking college football, basketball, tennis, and the chat is talking about African Cup of Nations. God bless their hearts. They can't get enough. They need to be betting right now. Just full degens. Live betting African Cup of Nations soccer. I didn't have a chance to look at it. There is a good match between a country I've never heard of and Gabon at 1 p.m. Comoros? I'm going to have to do some digging. They're just doing this thing where they're inventing new countries all the time, and I'm not keeping up apparently. So with that said, taking enough of your time for Alex.
Guinea,
for producer
Malawi.
Dan. Yeah, Malawi is another one. Like I cheer for one team in the AFCON, and it is Wakanda. Wakanda forever. Yeah, like, rate, review, hit the old thumbs up in the YouTube chat. We'll catch you here tomorrow.